episode 11. And yes, that is 11 and not the size of never mind. Um right now, I just turned down my mic. Holy. Right now there is a Boston and Buffalo game, and Buffalo is unfortunately getting crushed. It is 5-1, and I honestly thought Buffalo was going to be a much better team this year. But something's going on with them. Like right now, they're on a one-game losing streak. It's only been, actually, it's been more games than I've thought has been played. It's been 15 games so far, going to be 16. I think. I think that's how that would work. Um, and I really thought they were going to be a much better team. But this isn't a Buffalo podcast. This is a Boston podcast. So we are going to talk about Boston. Boston right now is on a one-game losing streak because I believe they lost to the Canadians, but they are still in a commanding lead right now. But Florida has actually moved up. They won 4 games in a row. So it's tight right now, but I mean Boston has been doing amazing. Um, they have one regulation loss. That's incredible after the first 14 games. And they have a game in hand. They have a game in hand on the Red Wings and the Maple Leafs and the Lightning and everybody else except for the Senators. But it's good. It kind of sucks that they don't have a game in hand against the Panthers because the Panthers did just win 4 games in a row, but we're still 6 points ahead of the second place team. Like we're doing way better than people assumed, and I'm glad that we're still doing this good at this point in the season. I know it's not that far; it's only been 14 games, but like that's pretty good. That's very confident for the new players and the old players and the young players and the goalies. Like having now another season under the belt of a winning season, like a great starting season. Um, and Danton Heinen is back for Boston, and a lot of people don't like Danton Heinen, and like I don't really care who it is. He's signed for. I mean, I loved him. I loved having him as a player on this team, and he was getting paid. I think 3 million. Now he's getting paid minimum. I believe he is actually getting paid minimum. Um, but that's fantastic. Like we got Lucic on minimum. We got all of these players that actually want to play for Boston on min contracts versus say like the Leafs. They have to overpay guys. They had to overpay Reeves $3 million for 3 years just so he can play here. Yeah, I get he's Canadian, but like, does he really want to play for the Leafs when the media is the worst? When nobody wants to go there unless they get paid? Like that's Toronto's problem right now, is they constantly have to overpay guys just to play for an original 6 team. That's how bad their team is. I get they have young guys, yada yada. Nobody cares. You could have the youngest team in NHL. You're still the Leafs. You're still not that good of a team. I just don't understand what, like it actually confuses me like how bad they have been for like multiple years. Like yay, they finally made it to the second round. But so what? Like Boston has made it to the Stanley Cup Finals literally 3 seasons ago. They just broke the regular season record. Like they've actually made steps to improve their team, and this year is no different. They're starting strong. They have key contributing players. They have JVR that just he's doing amazing. He's a +4 so far. He has 11 points. Coyle just got his first hat trick. Like there's things that are happening in this season that nobody is complaining about because again, one of two things. It's the beginning of the season, so nobody really cares by game 30, I'd say. Well, even game 20, which is kind of getting closer than I assumed. But the Maple Leafs are 8-5. And everybody, because the media is the worst there, everybody is crapping all over them and saying, oh, the Leafs suck, they got to do this. They still haven't had a chance to decide what they're going to do on re-signing Nylander. Like, he's just going to want the same money that Matthews and Marner and Tavares have, because why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he ask for that? If the Leafs are giving out that price, why wouldn't he give that money? Why wouldn't he get that money? But you have players that actually want to play for Boston. Like I said, JVR. And Boston has actually taken a chance on young players and their young players. So an example is Boston has two Portis and there's another and Lori in for defense. Oh, and Beecher. Totally forgot about Beecher. Beecher's not playing the best, but he's another. I think he's going to be another Lucic. I think he's just a big power forward that's gonna get into his game a little. Like he's got to have time to get into the rhythm of things. But Matthew Portis, what an incredible player that we picked up. He has turned into a star right now. I'm not going to talk about the future. I'm just talking about right now. Right now, he's a +3. He has 7 points in the last 14 games. He's a center, which is a big need after Bergeron left. Well, I mean, retired. And after Krejci retired. Like, that was a big spot to fill, and he easily filled that. I get we're only 14 games in, but he's looking like he can be a staple of this team. And another young guy that Boston has taken a chance on, he was originally picked by the Kraken, I believe, Morgan Geekie. He's only 24, and he's a +4 right now. He only has 3 points, but the plus-minus is a way bigger factor than people realize. Like Derek Forbert, he's a +9. He only has 2 points, but that is completely okay. And he's only played 10 games. He got injured for the first 4. And he's been playing great. Everybody's honestly been playing great. Like Boquist hasn't really been playing that much, which I'm a little surprised. Jacob Lauko, I wanted him to play better, but I just don't think he's really getting into his groove right now. But he's still very young. This is his first official season, I believe, being called up for this extended period of time. Like, he's played 7 games. Like, that's a lot. Oscar Steen just got his first NHL goal. I believe it was his first. I don't want to look that up. I don't want to waste time. But I'm very excited for the future of this team, which is kind of a rare thing to say about a top tier team that has no prospects. Like Portis, Danton Heinen is back, and he's youngish, like he's 25. Boquist, Steen, Lauko, obviously goalies. We saw Volmark and Swayman, who are just doing incredible. Swayman hasn't lost, which knock on wood. Allmark has actually. I don't know who's in net. Who was in net for? Oh, it was Allmark, I guess, for Montreal. But I'm very much looking forward to the future of this team. Now we will look at the standings of the other divisions. We looked at the Atlantic, but the Metropolitan hasn't pretty much changed. The Rangers are first, Hurricanes are second, Capitals are actually moving up. I believe they were down here a little. Even with the Penguins on a 4-game winning streak, they can't even move above the standings. And the Islanders, I am actually shocked that they are doing this poorly. And I wonder what's going to happen. Like, I wonder if by the trade deadline, if they have a terrible team, do they full sell? Do they half sell? Like, I would assume they'd keep the guys like Matthew Barzal, but are they gonna then sell the identity line? Like, are they gonna sell those guys that have worked for them for years? I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know. Like, you would think, oh yeah, do a full sell, but it's only one bad year. They could easily come out of this. They've always been a top tier team. So I'm just a little surprised they're playing bad. I'm slightly surprised that the Blue Jackets are playing bad, but the really crappy thing is they're 4-7, and they just went on a 5-game losing streak. So they were just 4-2, which is a great record to have right off the bat, and then they lost 5 games in a row. I mean, that would diminish your wanting to play better just down like. And then for the oh weird, and then for the Pacific, we have the Golden Knights in first, and unknowingly, we have the Canucks, who are having an incredible season right now, which is probably amazing for the fans because they were kind of in a weird purgatory mode right now, or last year. They weren't sure if they wanted to sell. There was big rumors about what's his name. They sold off uh, Bo Horvat, and but like the Islanders situation when they would ironically Islanders now have Bo Horvat, but like the Islanders situation before they let go of John Tavares, and now, well, not now, but before they were thriving, like they were doing amazing. Now the Canucks in that situation, the yeah the yeah the Canucks, sorry, they traded for Horvat, and the Islanders, the Islanders, who the hell had sorry, the Canucks traded Bo Horvat, and now they are better without him, which is a huge thing. And now, do they start thinking about trading the other kind of veteran players, the other kind of problem players? Like, do they take a chance on trading those guys? Um, and then the Kings. The Kings, I think this is going to be a sneaky year for the Kings. So I'd watch out for the Kings. I'd watch them closely, and I could probably put some money on the Kings to win it all. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they did. They are on a 2-game losing streak, but again, it's game 14 out of 81. It's not that big of a deal. Like, it's not that big of a deal right now. Kraken are, I mean, it's kind of a hard division for them, especially with the Kings and the Canucks and the Ducks doing so good. I kind of skipped over the Ducks. But this is kind of a good inaugural year for the Ducks because they're kind of doing that youth move, like a big youth movement, and they've been kind of bad for a couple years. But they got Zegras, they got McTavish. They just don't really have a goalie, but well, as far as I'm aware, but they have several other young guys on their team, so this is kind of a good inaugural year for them to get those guys really stepping up and see who's the true leader on this team, who's the true top scorer, who's the true passer. Maybe a goalie comes out of that. Maybe they have a young goalie in their system. The Flames, I'm shocked. I'm actually shocked that the Flames are playing this bad, and it's kind of an honestly, it might not be a surprise to anybody, but after they traded away Matthew Tkachuk for really nobody, like I know they're good players, but you had Matthew Tkachuk, and you traded him for 2 guys whose points don't even total up to Matthew Tkachuk's. Like, that's pretty bad. And then that coach gets fired, or the GM gets fired, and now he's the GM for Toronto, and that's not going to go well. And everybody's like, "Oh my God, it's not going well." Yeah, that's what literally everybody else said. Now where is Matthew Tkachuk? Oh, he's on the Panthers. That's why the Panthers are a top tier team. And I would absolutely love Matthew Tkachuk on Boston. He is a perfect player for Boston. Like, he is Boston. Like, he's a big power forward, but he's also he's respectful to the game. Like, he's kind of a similar like Brad Marchand guy. Like, Brad Marchand is, a rat, but he has his limits. He's not going to just be like an asshole to somebody. Like, if somebody fell on the ice, he will try and avoid them. And in the Central, we actually have the Stars on a 3-game winning streak, which is huge for the record because they would have been 7-3, which is still pretty good. But then being 10-3 is amazing. But with the Avalanche being 9-5 and everybody else playing just terribly, that's kind of great for the Stars, but kind of great for like the Blues or say the Coyotes or the Wild. Like, any of those teams, this the Central has always been um, a team that a division that I guess I'm ingestion. Um, they've always been a division that it's there's always going to be a new team that kind of comes out of the woodworks. Like the Wild have always been a top team. The Blues, the Jets, the Avalanche, the Stars. It's now simultaneously or unanimously becoming the Avalanche, but I mean the Stars like you see here they're top tier like they're Central and I think the Pacific are gonna kind of be one of those divisions where you know who the top team is going to be, but then team number two could easily be any of these four. And then the Oilers, they fired the coach 14 games in, which was like huge. But now I think, and I heard it on another podcast, somebody was saying that I think McDavid is starting to realize he needs to take over this team. He needs to do the LeBron effect. He needs to do the Crosby effect. He needs to be the guy who's like, I don't like that coach, fire him. And if I was the GM and the best player in the world who happens to be on my team says to fire this coach, that guy's gone. I don't even care. I don't even care if he won in the Olympics. If the best player, and you know he's the best player, says to fire this guy, I would fire that guy 1000%. Because you want to make that best player happy, or that best player is going to leave and make your team not the best. But I honestly think the Oilers, they're gonna have to do. They're not going to let. Well, they're not going to have McDavid leave without a fight. But man, they haven't done much of anything. I think they've made it to like the second round when having McDavid. But like, what do you do? Do you trade the best player and just get like boatloads of assets? Or do you keep them and just hope for the best, which is kind of what they've been doing? Like, they've been trying to build for a fighting chance. But honestly, I think the best bet, and I know it'll probably be a controversial thing, I'd trade McDavid. Like, nobody's untradeable. Gretzky got traded 3 times. I get a couple of those were like a team needing the money. But honestly, the Oilers have so many other problems. It's kind of just like Pittsburgh right now. They have Crosby and Malkin, and that's it. Who is under them? They don't have a goalie. They don't have defense. Or they have Letang, I think. But like, the Pittsburgh Penguins are in a worse situation because at least their players are older. The Oilers, at least McDavid is only 25, maybe even 24. I kind of forget now. But like look at the Blackhawks. They have Bedard, but before they got him, well, the Blackhawks. See, that's the thing I don't get is like with Bedard, you have him for at least 3 years. So why not build up for the future? Build up for like get more young guys on the team, get more youth, get better players for the future. Because he's not gonna say, "Oh, trade me." Like he's gonna be happy that he's playing for a team for at least 3 years. So I personally think I would sell McDavid at this point. Like you will get a boatload of assets, but what do you get? Like if you were to trade McDavid, do you just get like a boatload of firsts, or do you get like a boatload of like equal players? But now the good thing with the Flames trading Tkachuk for those 2 guys is the Oilers aren't going to do a trade like that because look how terrible it worked out for the Flames. The Oilers would probably honestly want both, and there's big evidence that they may trade Draisaitl, which would be huge. Like that would be the start of the rebuild. If they traded Draisaitl, I think that would be the start of the rebuild, and then they would trade McDavid because they're not going to have the best player in the world go through a rebuild and sit there for a year or 2 or 3, and then him finally say at the end of it, "Oh, I want to be traded," after they just got all of these assets when they realized they could have gotten more assets. I honestly think They just got to cut ties because I think he's 25. Like, he's still very young, but in a year, two, three, four, he's gonna be 30, and they're gonna be like, well, we just kind of wasted the best player in the world. Like, if you look at the Gretzky era and the Gretzky teams, and you look at the Jordan era, it wasn't just about Jordan. It wasn't just about Gretzky. He had teammates. He had his Draisaitl, but he also had um, the rebounding king. He had other smaller teammates that helped them. McDavid and Draisaitl don't have anybody. That's all they have. They just had a goalie in Campbell who played good for Toronto, but not good enough. And then the Oilers overpaid him, and now he got sent down to the AHL. So I personally would sell him. The Sabres just scored. This is a long third period. Um, yeah, weird. I honestly totally forgot the game was still happening. But I think the third period just started. Um, Speaking of goalies, actually, Devin Levi is the goalie for the Sabres. He is not. He's playing a terrible game. I don't know if they've sat him or not, but I think he's going to be a good future goalie for the Sabres. Like he I think he was that Team Canada goalie a couple years ago that everybody's like, oh, who is this guy? And now he's kind of turned himself into like a starter. I get it's still Buffalo, and I wonder what Buffalo's going to do. Like, they've kind of been in a perpetual rebuild for a couple years, but they kind of have like veteran players on the team, but not veteran players. Like, I don't know. They're in a weird like movement right now. Unlike the Canadians, they have the youth, they have the veterans. They just need a goalie, and they're right back into it. Like, where are they in the standings again? They're sixth right now, but they're like 4 points back from, or like 3 points back from second place. Like, there's that's what I mean right now. It's still very early on. The team that I completely missed is the Senators. I actually am shocked that the Senators are playing so poorly right now. They traded away, but the weird thing with the Senators, now remembering what they did, is they like traded a young guy for nothing and then used those assets to then buy a very similar player. And it was like, why? Like, what was the point of that? They traded their first finally for what's his name on the Coyotes. And it wasn't actually that big of a trade, which was surprising. But yeah, I'm very surprised about the Senators. But Boston is sorry about that. But Boston is doing way better than most people assumed. I mean, I kind of figured they were gonna have a good start to the season, but I didn't expect this. 11-1, I believe, maybe 11-1 in actually nobody has had. That's funny. Nobody has had an overtime loss yet. Whoa. No, that doesn't make sense because Boston. There's at least two teams. It's just not showing on the site. But like I said, I figured Boston was gonna have a good season because I always do. I'm obviously a fan, but I didn't think they were gonna have this good of a start to a season. Like, this is incredible. Like, this is a fantastic start. But um this is the start they had last year, and then I think the year before was the COVID year, or maybe the year before that. They were having an incredible season. They were 10 points above the second place team, and then they got screwed over in the COVID playoffs or whatever they wanted to call it, and then the next year, I think they lost in the second or the first round, but it was still a great season, and then they got the regular season. So this is the like third time's a charm. So that's why I think that again this season is going to be special, and I said that last year, and it was special. So I'm very excited about what they do, what happens, what they do at the deadline. I know if they're having a winning record like this at the deadline, I doubt they sell. Or I doubt they like buy a lot of assets. Like they wouldn't want to mess up the mojo of the team, the feng shui. Sorry about that. More tired than I thought. Probably perfect time to get off anyway. But oh, Boston game just ended 5-2 for Boston. um, I mean, it was there was four penalties against the Sabres, 3 against Boston. They had 8 power play minutes. Holy. Boston had a power play goal. Saves were very similar. Hits were, decent. Giveaways were very similar. Takeaways were very similar. Faceoffs were very similar. So I think what really killed them was the penalties. I think. Well, Boston had 3 penalties. Like they easily could have lost that game. But like for now, very happy that Boston won. So now they're 12-1, which is even better. The Panthers, always top team. The Red Wings, I'm surprised to see them this high, but I'm not kind of surprised. They are a good young team. Maple Leafs, I'm a little surprised, but if the Maple Leafs if the Maple Leafs don't make the playoffs, I think that's going to be a hit in the face for them to realize, like, oh, okay, like, we actually need to change this team, not just minor moves. And everybody keeps complaining about the depth. It's not the depth. It's the 4 guys that are overpaid. And I'm not saying they're overpaid. I'm just saying, like, they didn't even negotiate at all. Like, at all. Like, Dubas just, I understand Dubas isn't there, but Dubas just gave them any money they wanted. The Lightning, I'm a little surprised they are this low. They have like no draft picks because they traded pretty much all of them for one guy, and that guy wasn't even that good. And then the Canadiens, you get the Sabres, Senators again, Rangers, Hurricanes, Capitals, Devils. I'm surprised because last year they had such an incredible start to a season. Islanders, I'm very surprised. And then in the West, Golden Knights, I'm not shocked that they're at the top. The Canucks, I am. Kings, I'm kind of shocked. The Ducks, I'm a little surprised they're at the top here because I didn't think they'd want to play good this year. But they have Trevor Zegras, which I'm a little surprised that they set Trevor Zegras on the cover because up until then I didn't really know who he was. The Stars, I've always been kind of a fan of the Stars just because I'm a big fan of Green and they kind of popped out to me. But I like that the Stars are doing really good this year and they're doing better than the Avalanche. But the Jets are up there, the Blues are up there, the Coyotes, man, like the Coyotes are weirdly doing good right now. I get only 14 games, so we'll see what happens. We'll see how the season goes. But for now, stay awesome, you're awesome, and rock on. Peace.